And now, in studio, coming straight out of the beautiful village of Del Mar to deliver the timely truths on the real estate market. He's a CEO and broker, a seasoned trainer, and an award-winning expert. He's Mark Schwartz, and this is the Mark Schwartz Real Estate Show.
Good evening. This is Mark Schwartz, and this is the Mark Schwartz Real Estate Radio Show. Good evening. Hope you're doing well. I'm here with Hershel Strother II from Mark Schwartz Realty.
How you doing, Mark?
Doing great, thank you. And Joe Costa from Park Place Financial Group. Welcome.
Good evening, everyone.
Great. We have some very interesting things to talk about in our second segment with Joe. We're going to go ahead and continue with our philosophy when selecting a mortgage and a mortgage lender. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. We'll get into that. It's all good stuff.
Outstanding. Look forward to that. You know, I just wanted to take a minute while we're out looking at homes this week, showing property to clients that are in town from other states, loving the weather and all the things that San Diego has to offer. We've noticed that inventory has increased before our eyes. It's like I see almost a 30% increase over the last 30 to 45 days. Have you noticed that, Hershel?
Definitely. It's been crazy out there.
It seems like everyone who's been on the cusp, just waiting, sellers have now decided that the time is now, rolling into the spring. Everybody feels that coming into the summer, everybody's going to be making moves for the school year, etc. It's almost like they're a month or two late. What's up is now, as inventory increases, buyers are taking a step back. Joe, have you noticed as rates trickle down and trickle back up? I don't know what happened in the last 24 to 48 hours. I know those things change all the time. Have you noticed that people are taking a step back? The sense of urgency is seeming to change a bit. Do you notice that?
I see that happening. It's really a case by case from what my experience is. There are people that are definitely concerned that they've missed good opportunities, but that means they should still go forward if the transaction makes sense because the rates are very low right now.
Yeah,
incredibly low.
I agree. And I think what we found, Hershel, was people are kicking themselves for not buying in 2012, 13, and 14. And as they've watched appreciation take place and sellers regain that wealth and that equity position that they didn't have previously, they're feeling like we're still pre-bubble. Maybe it's the wrong time to buy when, in fact, now's the best time to buy with interest rates where they're at. I think you'll find that with rates as they start to creep up, as prices start to settle, your payment's going to remain the same. And over the course of that 30-year loan, you're going to pay a huge chunk of interest that you wouldn't be paying if you were to capitalize on today's rates.
There was an interesting survey that came out this week in regards to potential home buyers. And it talked about people that are looking to buy certain age ranges. And this mentioned that 70% of potential buyers actually feel they've missed a chance to buy a home due to rising prices. So that's the misconception that people believe because that number is pretty high.
Yeah, that's true. And Hershel, I think you noticed at our last open house, whereas we used to have 10, 12, 15 people that were looking to buy right now, like we had to get them out tomorrow, dig up a house, we need to move. Now it's like, okay, well, let's see what comes up this week. Let's see what our options are this weekend. We're trying to push people into situations that arise, and everyone's taking a step back. So although they feel like they've missed the boat, as you mentioned, Joe, they're also taking a step back because they feel now that they have more choice, more selection. Now maybe because I missed the boat, I can find that motivated seller.
Right.
And try and take advantage of the situation.
Well, I thought that was an incredibly high number, 70%. Rates are still low, so I would understand that if rates have gone up, we've raised the rates, or the Feds have raised the rates, combined with the perception that prices have gone up, then you might feel that 70% is warranted. But that's a high number considering rates are still very low. So people need to get out and start looking and get aggressive before the rates get high.
No question about it. In fact, we were talking about that yesterday.
Yeah, with the rates. Now, Joe, we talked about the interest rates. I know the Feds talked about the interest rates possibly going up in September. Are you starting to see that?
Well, again, This is always subject to change. Yesterday was a interesting day in the stock market.
Okay.
A lot of stocks, depending on the sector. Biotech sector was hit very hard, but that means people pulling cash out, investment firms, hedge funds, and putting it into bonds. So that helps. But certainly there's a talk, and we're not quite sure when it's going to happen, that at one point rates are going to have to go up.
Well, we were watching C-SPAN the other day, and I think that the Fed rep did say that they could raise rates at any time. So at any one of these meetings coming up in the near future, rates could go up. And so what I was mentioning to Hershel when we spoke about it the other day with a client of ours, it's like they may feel that they've missed the boat because equity positions are continuing to increase and prices are still, there was an article today in the Union Tribune where, prices in our region are still rising. And so, the general consensus is that we don't want to jump in. We've missed the opportunity to get that 18-20% increase when, on the flip side, the interest rate being where it's at right now, pretty soon there's not going to be that opportunity. So what you're going to end up doing by waiting is you're going to absolutely take yourself out of the market and lose that opportunity that you still have right now while it's affordable to get in with interest rates as low as they are. What's going to happen is at that point, we're going to be dealing with people that have to sell. Sellers are going to be, if there's a death, a divorce, they can no longer afford their house, they're being relocated.
Transitioning to that next stage of their life, as we saw when we were showing homes.
Absolutely. One way or another, it's a motivated seller, and that's an opportunity for a guy to get in there with cash or a deal. That's how people feel they will compensate for having to spend more money on the home via the interest rate and closing costs.
Right. So you're not going to lose, right? Buying a home is an investment. So if you get a proper loan based on the purchase price and you have the resources to afford that loan, you get out now and buy a house because it's an investment. It's long term. It's not, you have to think that way. And that's the best approach, I think, for a buyer.
Absolutely.
Now, Joe, do you recommend, if someone has the cash to do a conventional loan, do you recommend going that route, or maybe going with an FHA, putting a little bit less down in this climate?
Well, that comes into the MI, PMI payment, mortgage insurance. So certainly it depends. There are some new products out. I mentioned one a couple of weeks back. There's 97% financing now without MI. They actually, what they do is they call it lender paid MI. So the rate's a little bit higher, but you don't have that nagging extra payment that you see on your mortgage statement each month. So the answer to your question, that's a case by case. I'm going to get into that a little bit on the second segment.
Definitely.
And it will allow people to see things from where they're at.
Thank you very much. I want to remind you, you're listening to the Mark Schwartz Real Estate Radio Show. This is Mark Schwartz, and we're here with Hershel Strother from Mark Schwartz Realty and Joe from Park Place Financial Group. And getting back to that, it's an investment. It's your family's future. And so figure out where you're at on that platform. Are you looking to buy a home for your primary residence in a long-term investment, capitalize on the tax write-off that you get from the interest you're paying each month? Are you looking to gauge the market and make an investment based on rates and price and rents? I mean, where are you in the game? I think you need to determine first. One thing I know is there was never a house that went for zero or went bankrupt, or there was no way to recover either income monthly or some sort of equity position or some sort of bank assistance. Real estate is definitely a more solid investment with so many options. There's so much flexibility when building and creating wealth, gives you leverage to do so many things for you and your family. So again, some of the best investments are the primary residence. I think the first thing you want to do is find out where you want to live, what your needs are. Go out and find yourself a house. As Hershel mentioned, as Joe mentioned, if you are looking to buy a house today, if you have no money down, 3% down, 20% down, 100% cash, there are many options that are available for you. You can go out, you can be competitive. We're going to talk in our third segment about how you can compete with these cash offers and some of the other things that are going on right now. But first, I think we need to get back to the LA Clippers and that game last night. I don't know if you saw that, Paulie, did you?
I watched the entire game as a big Spurs fan, and was not a happy Spurs fan at the end of the game. I think the only person less happy than me was Greg Popovich.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. They kept coming back and getting close, and at the very end, with 1.6 seconds, had that last opportunity.
There was a missed traveling call on Jamal Crawford, but you know what? If it comes down to a traveling call, you probably don't deserve to win anyway. And for the first time, pretty much all season, especially late in the season, the Clippers the Spurs showed their age. They looked like an old team yesterday against a younger, faster, more athletic Clippers team. Big Baby Davis looks like he's got an ankle injury. Don't know if he's going to come back, which hurts the Clippers because that's one of their weak spots is their bench. And if without Glenn Davis, then they're even a little bit weaker. Spurs still have a deeper bench, but it's going to be tough to go into Staples on Saturday and win a Game 7 because that building is going to be rocking.
Yeah, unbelievable the advantage the Clippers have to come Game 7 back.
And what really impressed me was Chris Paul could not hit the broadside of a building in the first half last night. He was 0 for 9 in the first half, had, I think, 4 points, 4 free throws. And then midway through the third quarter, he looked like the Chris Paul that we're used to seeing. And, Blake Griffin was lights out. He kept him in the game, and they ended up staying close, so they got Blake Griffin some rest. In Game 5, Blake Griffin was really, really tired in the fourth quarter. That's how the Spurs were able to win that game. They were able to get Blake Griffin to rest most of the third quarter, and then he was just lights out in the fourth quarter. And the Clippers were definitely the better team last night on the road.
Yeah, you absolutely nailed it. They looked like the younger, more aggressive team. They were going for it. Their defense, they were scrappy. They were pulling the ball. They were being physical. And it just didn't look like San Antonio could contend with that game last night. Now, we'll see what happens in Game 7. Obviously, with Popovich and Duncan, these guys are pros and have been there. But you got to think, man, this might be the end of a dynasty. If the Clippers can take them in L.A., will they be back next year or not?
It's going to be really interesting. They're a very well-run organization. Duncan's getting towards the end. He's just turned 39 years old, 5 championships, 2 MVPs, nothing left to prove for him. If he retires at the end of the season, no one can blame him. Ginobili's hinted at retirement the last couple of years. Parker, he's kind of showing his age for the first time in his career. He got to the rack a couple of times, but couldn't finish like he used to. So they might just kind of take a step back, rebuild around Kawhi Leonard, and then be back in a couple of years.
Absolutely. You got to love Kawhi. Mills coming off the bench, definitely helping for
Patty
TP,
Mills.
Tony
And see, that's the thing. That's the reason why the Spurs are not out of this yet, because the bench is
they
great.
Got a deep bench.
Patty Mills was great in Game 5, and then out of nowhere, Marco Bellinelli hits 6 of 7
the
three-pointers.
Italian guys shooting threes. They're like looking for him. It was like blatantly obvious they would not take a shot. They're like looking for Marinelli, and finally hit him.
Exactly. He would have had another one if it wasn't for a basket interference by Boris Diaw. So that's the thing. That's the thing that always scares you about the Spurs. And they struggled last year in the first round against the Dallas Mavericks.
They came back strong.
And they came back and they dominated the Miami Heat in the finals and won the championship. So if the Spurs, until the clock hits 0.00 seconds, you cannot count the San Antonio Spurs.
No way. They got the experience. They've been there before. But as you said, that blatant travel, there was probably 2-3 steps that were there. It was pretty comedy.
And all of a sudden the Spurs get the ball back with down by 1 with 10.2 seconds, and I think they, if I remember correctly, they still had a timeout left, so they could have advanced the ball. That's a completely different game. But again, if you need the refs to bail you out with a traveling call, which they never call in the NBA,
they didn't need it in the first place. You shouldn't have been there. In fact, I'm not dating myself, but before we go to the second segment, I remember when Popovich fired John Lucas and came from the president down to the bench to coach. He had Robinson there, and I think that Duncan had just got out of Wake Forest, and they've never looked back.
Exactly.
Absolutely ridiculous. When we come back in the second segment, we're going to talk to Joe Costa from Park Place Financial Group about how you select a mortgage broker. What's the philosophy behind it, and how do you move forward with confidence?
If you've got questions, we've got answers. AM 1170, The Answer.
Hey, Craig Sewing here, going to bat for you every single day as your consumer advocate here on KCBQ. I give a lot of advice on your finances, your real estate, your mortgage, your tax plan, estate plan, even things like debt and credit. Look, as your consumer advocate, I'm not licensed to do anything for you, but I will bring you great information, great experts on the show, and most importantly, if you ever need an introduction for anything on your financial decisions or real estate or anything else on that financial wheel, make sure you visit me online, craigsewing.com. craigsewing.com. That's Craig with a C, sewing like a sewing machine. craigsewing.com. I am happy to introduce you to my partners who help me with this show and can help you win in any marketplace.
Over the course of over 20 years in practice, Mr. Garrison has tried more than 45 cases, winning many multi-million-dollar jury verdicts and settlements. Mr. Garrison and his team do not shy away from hard work, hard cases, or earning results. Their reputation for being aggressive, experienced trial lawyers has produced excellent results for their clients, both in and out of the courtroom. Trial lawyers will give you practical advice based on real-world experience. There's only one way to acquire this kind of experience. Earn it under pressure in court. Greg Garrison's trial experience allows his team to counsel you in practical ways. It is their goal to avoid litigation if possible. However, if your case must be tried, they know how to win. Call Greg Garrison. Consultations are free. Choosing the wrong lawyer is not. Greg Garrison is the exclusive criminal defense attorney for the Craig Sewing Show, The American Dream, and their entire team.
Craig Sewing here, host of the Craig Sewing Show. I want you to think in your head for a minute. How much money did you make last year? Here's a better question. How much money did you keep? In other words, how much of your hard-earned money was for you rather than giving it away to this inefficient government of ours? If you think the government's inefficient, I got a challenge for you. I'm going to challenge your efficiency with your tax plan. My good friend Doug Jennings, who you hear on KCBQ all the time, is a savant when it comes to tax planning. As Doug puts it, Craig, I've never even seen a tax return I can't improve. Doug can help you keep more of your money, help you improve your structure for your taxes, your business, your real estate, even your marriage. Why wouldn't you take a moment to get a free consultation? It can save you thousands, maybe tens of thousands of dollars. He's not really a friend of the IRS, but I'm a consumer advocate. I want him helping you. This is something you got to do. Visit JenningsTaxLaw.com for a free consultation on your tax plan. That's JenningsTaxLaw.com. You can thank me later. Doug is a great person, a great professional. He and his wife Peggy are friends of mine. I give him my highest recommendation, JenningsTaxLaw.com. Visit him today.
Welcome back. Good evening. It's Mark Schwartz, and this is the Mark Schwartz Real Estate Radio Show. I'm here tonight with Hershel Strother II from Mark Schwartz Realty.
How's it going?
I almost forgot my name there. And Joe Costa from Park Place Financial Group. By the way, Joe, where can they reach you?
646-245-7856. Call or text. You can send a text during the show.
And I think you said tonight, if anybody was to text, you were willing to go ahead and pay for the appraisal of their home or refinance. That's text Joe at
646-245-7856.
And mention the Mark Schwartz Real Estate Radio Show. Joe will pay for your appraisal, get you out, get the process rolling. He's a relationship-based mortgage rep. He's going to go ahead and he owns his company. He's the CEO. He's got 25 years experience. He's going to take your situation and build you the best program for your family. So, Joe, just to lead into the second portion of your three-part segment here in how to select and the philosophy behind selecting a mortgage loan and a mortgage loan officer.
Yes. Well, there's a lot to talk about. You can get into many different aspects of it. So I'm going to try to streamline it in this segment and talk about what I feel is the most important part. Everything's important when you engage in a loan, but this is the most important part once you actually make the decision to go forward with a particular lender, right? So we have, like I mentioned last week, you're not always going to get the best rate. You can't go into thinking that you're going to get the best rate, because if that's your thought, chances are you're not. And at any given day, time, during the business day when the markets are open, if you're quoted a rate, that rate could change within the next 15 minutes, 2 hours. So if you're going to waste the time and energy of trying to find the best deal, you're not going to get it. So you're better served by putting your energy into finding a lender, loan officer that actually knows how to handle purchase transactions. Extremely important, right? Refinances are a lot easier of a transaction. So when you speak to a loan officer that actually has more refinance business and purchase business, that's probably not the person you want to go with in terms of a purchase transaction, right? And it's a big part, as we mentioned on other shows, guys, all the moving parts that go on in a escrow situation.
Yeah, that's and just like that, we were at an open house, Hershel and I, on the weekend. It was $1.6 million. Gentleman comes in and feels very confident about his credit and his qualification, process, and comes in with a bit of an attitude, and he's ready to go, firing away, and so, we're not knowing this individual as we normally do, and protocol is to get him in front of you, Joe, as we did, only to find out there were a couple of issues, some stumbling blocks. The guy wasn't like a now buyer, and he had to go through the motions, which I think you were talking about last week. It's so important to take this seriously. It's an investment. It's long-term, and get prepared before doing or going out and trying to find a home.
Right. That's a great point. That's part of the segment here, which is when you are looking for a loan, don't do a disservice to yourself by saying, okay, I'm going to call this particular loan officer and just ask about the best rate. I don't want to hear anything else, sir. I just want to know what your rates are. That's not really a good approach, because you really want to make sure that even if that person's giving you a good rate, that they can handle your transaction. Let them know about your situation. Tell them what some of your needs are. You have family, you don't have family, you want to build a family, you're this age, or this stage of your life, this stage of your working career. All that has to be factored in, and ultimately will determine what kind of loan product you should go with. So it's not just, give me a 30-year. I don't want to talk to you any further than that. And I get that sometimes, and I try to slow that particular buyer down and say, hey, listen, I offer a lot more than just giving you a rate. Okay, I want to know about your situation and review it, and then come back and tell you what the best situation or best loan product is for you based on your situation.
That's another great point. Joe's not the type of mortgage broker that's going to put you in one of these loans that's going to adjust outside of your capability of paying for the house. I think that we all know that when the bubble burst or when the housing prices changed or started to come down, that wasn't the issue in why people were losing their homes. The issue was that, based on the economy and what was going on with the job market and interest rates, making these adjustments and huge adjustments on this, middle class, people that are coming in on these homes. These associations are paying your taxes for 2 years, paying your mortgage for a couple of months, your association dues for 2 years. And then at the end, when your mortgage adjusts and you start paying your own taxes and you start paying your homeowners association, your payment's up $1,500, $1,600 a month. Now you don't have the leverage to sell the house, but you can't afford it either. So you've got to take the time, think long-term, take the rate risk out of play. And I think that's what you're talking about, Joe. It was, let's look at what you're trying to accomplish in your life as a whole.
Right. You want to be able to weather the storm. Right. This go around, how people can protect themselves. The market might crash, God forbid, hopefully not. But if you're in a solid loan program and you have the means to support the loan, if the values go down, good times and bad, you'll be okay. You'll weather the storm. It's no different than buying a stock. You want to make sure you don't need that money per se, because if it goes down, the only time you lose is when you sell. So if you can hang in there and weather that storm, you might get your appreciation back. The same goes here. You have to make sure you get into the right product. It's extremely important so you're hurricane proof, and ready to weather that storm.
Yeah, there's three things that we talked about, Hershel, and I'll let you get into that. And that was along those lines. It was budgeting monthly, knowing what your expenses are, making sure that you have enough to cover your expenses and put a little money away for the future, for a rainy day, for college fund, whatever it is. And then just being conscious of when you put the money away, what you're using it for, and like quarantining it. It's almost like I don't have that anymore to use. I've put that away. And that's to weather the storm, Joe. These are you got to be a responsible individual out there, and assuming that you are, and you're going in and taking this. It's a risk, but it's a conservative risk. There's always income. You could always rent out the property. You could always sell the home. As long as you can afford to keep it, you keep your job. I mean, there are other things that you need to be conscientious about. There are factors into the whole thing, but the investment itself, the long-term investment, the goal, the interest savings, the appreciation, and all the things that happen, it's it's a low-risk situation that you got to be able to obviously take care of your life.
Definitely. Now, Joe, are lenders still offering option arms? Are those popular right now?
Well, the arms are there. Certain lenders have withdrawn from offering option arms, and there's a couple of reasons why. Number one, 30 years, 15 years is so low right now. So if you're balancing the two and you're very close on a 30, why would you not go with a 30, right? I know maybe you can save an eighth on a particular rate, but get into a safe product where you can weather the quote-unquote storm that we're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, if you have to get into one of those situations, you really have to look at what your needs are. If you're going to buy the house for a couple of years and then sell it, and you think, I'll go ahead and gamble based on the market and appreciation of the home, and then I'm willing to offset it. If you're going with an interest only because you're just trying to squeeze in, you got to be careful at what's going to take place over the next few years.
But here's the other caveat to that. When you actually go for an interest only, the few lenders that still offer it, they're going to actually qualify you on a fully amortized payment.
Gotcha.
So, the days of just getting in with the, interest is changed. That's where the safeguard is put into place by the lenders based on the guidelines.
It was unbelievable that, a school teacher making $4,000 a year could go in and buy a house for $350,000. Taxes, homeowners, Melrose, et cetera, her payments are exceeding 50% of her income. I don't know how they did it, but at that point they were able to show that obviously that they weren't paying the taxes, weren't paying the homeowners association, and because it was 2 years out, they didn't have to factor it in. Is that how it worked?
Yes,
Wow.
Along those lines, somewhat along those lines. But there's other grayness to that situation too. But yes, to sum that up, more or less that what was going on.
Well, I get these emails and questions sometimes when we're out. People that are looking in the refinance market. When is it a good time to refinance? Do they have to wait till it's a point less than where they currently are?
That's a good question, Hershel. Again, you're listening to the Mark Schwartz Real Estate Radio Show. This is Mark Schwartz, and we're here with Joe Costa from Park Place Financial Group. You can email him at joe@parkplacefg. That's Frank Gary. So joe@parkplacefg.com. Joe?
Yes, so answer to that question, good question. Again, that's going to be based on a situation, that particular situation. If it's a large enough loan, you don't need that 1%.
Okay.
Right. If it's a small loan, you perhaps would need maybe more than 1% of a difference.
To make sense.
To have it make sense. That's where you crunch the numbers. So, people are out there that are thinking, hey, I don't know if I can get a point. I have an $800,000 loan, $700,000. It might still make sense. Rates are still very low. So that's where the part of digging into the loan officer in terms of questions come into play. It's not just rate, which gets me to that next point I wanted to bring up, which is the LO needs to be interviewed, right? You almost have to look at this as an interview situation. You're hiring a loan officer to work for you, right? They're getting paid. They're getting compensated. So if you're going to hire someone to work for you, if you look at it from that perspective, don't you want to get to know that person, interview them, see what their experience is, how are they handle their timelines? Are you able to meet these escrow situations? Can you tell me, can I speak to an old client perhaps? I mean, that's going a little too far, but those aren't uncommon things that you should be thinking about.
Absolutely. And so you have to trust the individual you're working with. You have to have confidence in their knowledge and their ability, testimonials, anything that makes you feel confident about it. But I think when you talk to Joe, you can tell he's serious, he's passionate and energetic about the business. His knowledge, after 25 years, he will definitely be able to put you into the right program. You can reach Joe via phone or text at
646-245-7856.
Great. So when we come back in the third segment, I think it's very important. I'm going to let Joe, let's finish a little bit about what you were just talking about, and then we'll go into some other things like Tiger Woods at the Players' Championship in 2 weeks.
AM 1170. The Answer.
Hey San Diego, Craig Sewing here. Look, one of the things that nobody likes to hear is that they got bugs in their home. Almost all California homes have some sort of bug or termite problem. It's not a cool thing to have bugs running around your house, so I'm going to help you get rid of them. I want you to connect with Lloyd's Pest Control. These are our good friends of the Craig Sewing Show. They can help you. They've been in business putting bugs out of business since 1931. They'll do a free inspection for you. If you want to get your biggest investment checked out, make sure there's not bugs or termites, go to LloydPest.com. That's LloydPest.com and get a free inspection of your real estate today. Hey, your host Craig Sewing here. I got some great advice for you here today. Please tune in. Listen, everyone has a credit score. I am a believer that every one of those credit scores has inaccuracies that affect it within that credit report. It's pretty much a proven fact. Now, the question is, what do you do about your credit? The bureaus don't make money off of giving you an accurate credit score. They could care less. They make money by selling your information to the big banks, the mortgage companies, insurance, realtors. I can help you stop that. We can help you get a free credit report that doesn't ding your credit. We can help you opt out of having your information sold. All those letters you're getting in the mail, email offers, it's because they're selling your information to anyone who will buy it. You got to stop it. It puts you at risk at identity theft. Here's what you can get today. A free credit package from Aran Sinai. Aran is the best in the business. He's going to teach you how to get that free credit report, how to opt out, and if you need any credit advice, he'll chat with you for free as well. His number, 866-CREDIT-PRO. 866-CREDIT-PRO. Give Aran a call. 866-CREDIT-PRO. Or if you like, visit me online. Tell me about your story. CraigSewing.com. Call Aran, 866-CREDIT-PRO, or visit CraigSewing.com. Hey, Craig Sewing here, host of The Craig Sewing Show. You know I'm every night at 6 p.m. on 1170 AM KCBQ, going to bat for our audience. What you might not know is we can actually be a resource for you as well. I'm right here in San Diego, acting as your consumer advocate. We have a text line. If you ever have a question or concern, or maybe you want an introduction to whoever I consider to be an elite in the finance or real estate space, all you have to do is text my direct line. That number, 619-846-9333. That's right, just send me a text message and I will give you direct advice, no strings attached. 619-846-9333. You can also visit us online, hit our contact form at craigsewing.com. That's 619-846-9333, or visit me online, craigsewing.com. Craig Sewing here, host of The Craig Sewing Show. I want you to think in your head for a minute. How much money did you make last year? Here's a better question. How much money did you keep? In other words, how much of your hard-earned money was for you rather than giving it away to this inefficient government of ours? If you think the government's inefficient, I got a challenge for you. I'm going to challenge your efficiency with your tax plan. My good friend Doug Jennings, who you hear on KCBQ all the time, is a savant when it comes to tax planning. As Doug puts it, Craig, I've never even seen a tax return I can't improve. Doug can help you keep more of your money, help you improve your structure for your taxes, your business, your real estate, even your marriage. Why wouldn't you take a moment to get a free consultation? Can save you thousands, maybe tens of thousands of dollars. He's not really a friend of the IRS, but I'm a consumer advocate. I want him helping you. This is something you got to do. Visit JenningsTaxLaw.com for a free consultation on your tax plan. That's JenningsTaxLaw.com. You can thank me later. Doug is a great person, a great professional. He and his wife Peggy are friends of mine. I give him my highest recommendation, JenningsTaxLaw.com. Visit him today.
I'd like to welcome you all back. This is Mark Schwartz, the Mark Schwartz Real Estate Show, and you are listening to us this Friday night. It is with Hershel Strother II at Mark Schwartz Realty and Joe Costa, our mortgage guy from Park Place Financial Group. You can reach Joe at 646-245-7851. And
7856.
Oh, I'm sorry, 7856. Couldn't read my own writing. Anyway, Joe, just so you can finish up on what we were talking about before.
Yeah, so the other part I wanted to mention was if you let a loan officer know that you're in the business of referring, if you do a good enough job, I'm actually going to refer my my influence, my sphere of influence that my family members and whatnot. So please perform based on us doing this. So that will inspire a loan officer to say, well, wait a minute, if I'm actually going to be receiving referrals, I got to be on my best behavior. Now, I say that in a comical way, but the reality is when you tell someone as a buyer, as a borrower, that, hey, loan officer, I actually refer people, it's going to put them on notice to let them know they need to give top-notch service.
It almost seems like what you're doing is you're telling the listening audience that they need to keep their loan officer in check. Shouldn't they already be looking out for their best interest, assuming they're getting referrals, work hard to get referrals? Isn't that the outlook?
Yes, it is. But this is the upfront. When I was mentioning that they should almost look at hiring a loan officer as an interview, you could say those things in the beginning part of the transaction. Say, I love to refer people. So if you're my guy, I'm going to be in a position where I'll refer some people to you, and that will help. And most of the time, a loan officer is going to say, yes, I will do a great job, but you can kind of feel out a situation, how someone answers. That's the whole premise behind the interview. See how they answer. If they answer with authority, do they work off of referrals? Are they that relationship-oriented loan officer, or are they the transactional loan officer, which is, you're just a number, I'm going to say what you need to hear, you're going to get mad at me during the course of this transaction, but I don't care because you're just a number.
Yeah.
Hey, Joe, is there a rating system on loan officers or mortgage companies that...
Yeah, mine's off the chart, actually, but yes, there is a...
Number one, as always.
Of course. That's why you're here on the show.
No, there is. I mean, and different systems have... Different platforms have rating systems, the Zillows, Trulia, those types of platforms will allow you to get rated if, in fact, you use those platforms. Not all the loan officers out there that are good use those platforms. So if you don't see someone on there, it doesn't mean they're not good.
I find that generally the only people that are making comments are the people that live to make comments, and you may get negative, you may get positive, but until you actually talk to the people that have worked with Joe, myself, Hershel, get the testimonials from the people that have actually done business with them direct, hear from them, from their mouth, feel the confidence, feel the pleasure that they had experienced as well. That's how I would go ahead and select an individual that I'm working with. I want to know that they've performed. I want to speak to the individuals that they have worked with and how confident they are in their ability to work with them in the future. And that's how I'm going to make my decision. You're going to interview the individual, and you're going to be a pro about it. Now, Joe, I had a quick question because I have a client of mine, and he said he had a relationship with the bank not to be named now, Wells Fargo. And at that point, I had mentioned that there are all kinds of programs that are out there for him. And I had a mortgage guy that I was working with, and obviously his first question is, well, what's his rate? And that's a question that I can't answer, so I try and refer him to you. But then he said, I was shopping online, and I saw, 3 1/8, and I saw 3 1/5. I mean, where's he at? What do I got? I think that's stemming back to what you were saying. It's not all rate related. You got to look at what you're dealing with. Who knows what the closing costs that are involved in it? Look at that net sheet. And then another thing that you just brought up at the break is this guy that's online that we have no idea who he is. How responsible is he going to feel for you? He's not developing a relationship with you. He's not going to be in your corner coaching you through it as you are. So that's the difference.
You have to know how to do business in California. It's different than other states. We know it's an escrow state. There's other states out there that are attorney states. So if you're a loan officer in the Midwest that's not familiar with an escrow state, in terms of how it's done and time frames, you're going to be in a situation with that loan officer where perhaps you'll miss your timelines. You're going to be very frustrated. You're going to be angry, and you're going to say, well, why did I go with that individual? He was an eighth lower, but I should have went with that local person that was an eighth higher, and he was honest and straight, but he probably would have gotten this through a lot easier.
Absolutely. Again, this is Mark Schwartz. This is the Mark Schwartz Real Estate Radio Show. And at any time, give me a call or text at 858-414-4602 for all your real estate needs. I think my forecast is that through the summer of 2015, we're going to see heavy buyer activity out there. It's almost like everyone's out looking at homes. Now, they may have taken a step back and trying to evaluate based on inventory, calculating, interest rates and seeing if they trickle up. It's almost like they got to get, these guys are waiting for the rates to trickle up before they jump in the game. It blows me away that, nobody's satisfied with what they got. Like, maybe they'll just go down a little bit more before we get, an eighth of a point. What is it that they're waiting for? At what point are you ready to jump in the market and create the wealth for your family? At what point are you a player and off the sidelines, man, suiting up and playing ball? That's what we're looking for. I mean, Hershel, you were out this weekend showing property downtown. We got a great new listing downtown, 1501 India Street, Unit 304. Listed to sell at $539. It's a great location. We have multiple interest in that property. While you were down there, you stumbled into a buyer? Was that what?
Stumbled into a buyer. She, again, she thought I was waiting for my client, and she thought I was the doorman, just kind of asking questions about the building. Are there shops around here? And she just happened to mention that she was in the market of finding a home herself.
And so what you did was you were able to lasso her, bring her in, help her, discover what she was looking for, show her inventory, and then get in, and she found a house.
We were out the next day in escrow within 6 days.
So here's a situation where there was multiple offers on it, and actually Hershel was able to negotiate the deal for less than the other offers. It was a clean, quick cash offer. You have to work with a pro who knows what they're doing. We have a relationship with this agent. If you've been in the business and you've been around, you list and sell homes, then you're known in the community, and it weighs huge dividends. You need to make sure the individual that you're working with has the experience, has the knowledge of the areas that you're in, and has that network to go ahead and work it out. But getting back to that, Joe, I had a client who called me about, what is this that you can now buy real estate and put it into your IRA or your 401k as opposed to buying stocks or investments?
Well, yeah, that's what we refer to that as you pledge your assets. So in other words, certain investment firms will allow that. Deutsche Bank, JP Morgan, those type of places will allow you, if you have enough in stocks and liquid assets, you can pledge those assets in lieu of an actual loan. So, but you have to keep those assets there, and they're put against the property, so you don't actually take a loan out.
Okay, so instead of a loan, is this like an all-cash offer to the seller? Can you then say to the seller, I'm coming in all cash and I don't need to apply for financing?
Yes, because typically when you use your assets, you clear that or need to clear that with your investment firm, your investment manager, and they'll tell you, yes, you have up to X amount in terms of what you can pledge, and that will allow you to then go out and shop effectively. So typically it works where you can cover it if you have enough, or the whole entire loan.
And so does the government then treat it as an IRA or as your 401k, the tax advantages that you would normally receive? Are you still receiving those, or is it just allowing you to use that money for another investment?
Well, let me backtrack. It doesn't necessarily need to be, and I'm no tax consultant here, but it's not necessarily in your IRA or pension. It could just be in a straight, investment account where you pledge those assets.
Again, we don't claim to be specialists in these areas, but we're definitely heavily informed. You can call Joe Costa at any time at Park Place Financial Group at 646-245-7856, or email him at joe@parkplacefg.com. I'm Mark Schwartz. This is the Mark Schwartz Real Estate Radio Show. When we come back, we're going to talk about some new listings, open houses, what's happening in San Diego, and have a little fun with sports.
AM1170, theanswer.com. Hear us anywhere in San Diego and the world. AM1170, The Answer.
Hey San Diego, Craig Sewing here. One of the things I know very well is real estate. Inman News nominated me for most influential in the space, and I launched a nationwide network built on the timely truths of our real estate market. Look, one of the many relationships you're going to encounter when buying a home or refinancing is who handles the money, also known as the escrow company. When it comes to hundreds of thousands of dollars, or maybe even millions of dollars in a real estate transaction, you can't just use anyone. I trust Oakwood Escrow. These guys and gals are the best in the business, offering trustworthy service. Whether you're a consumer or in the real estate business, nobody gets it done better than Oakwood Escrow. That's who I'd use, and you should too. Visit them at oakwoodescrow.com. That's oakwoodescrow.com.
Over the course of over 20 years in practice, Mr. Garrison has tried more than 45 cases, winning many multi-million-dollar jury verdicts and settlements. Mr. Garrison and his team do not shy away from hard work, hard cases, or earning results. Their reputation for being aggressive, experienced trial lawyers has produced excellent results for their clients, both in and out of the courtroom. Trial lawyers will give you practical advice based on real-world experience. There's only one way to acquire this kind of experience: earn it under pressure in court. Greg Garrison's trial experience allows his team to counsel you in practical ways. It is their goal to avoid litigation if possible. However, if your case must be tried, they know how to win. Call Greg Garrison. Consultations are free. Choosing the wrong lawyer is not. Greg Garrison is the exclusive criminal defense attorney for The Craig Sewing Show, The American Dream, and their entire team.
Hey, Craig Sewing here, host of The Craig Sewing Show. You know I'm every night at 6 p.m. on 1170 AM KCBQ, going to bat for our audience. What you might not know is we can actually be a resource for you as well. I'm right here in San Diego, acting as your consumer advocate. We have a text line. If you ever have a question, a concern, or maybe you want an introduction to whoever I consider to be an elite in the finance or real estate space, all you have to do is text my direct line. That number, 619-846-9333. That's right, just send me a text message. message, and I will give you direct advice, no strings attached. 619-846-9333. You can also visit us online. Hit our contact form at craigsewing.com. That's 619-846-9333, or visit me online, craigsewing.com.
Welcome back on this Friday evening, May 1st. It's Mark Schwartz, and this is the Mark Schwartz Real Estate Radio Show. I'm here tonight with Hershel Strother II, as always, from Mark Schwartz Realty.
How you doing?
Doing great. How's the show?
Wonderful.
Great, man. Love to have you. And then Joe Costa from Park Place Financial Group. As always, our financial guy, 646-245-7856. Text him today, and you'll get that free appraisal on a home purchase or refinance. You know, Joe, I had a question. When a borrower is shopping for a loan and all rates are similar with each lender, how do you differentiate the costs? What are the different costs that this borrower, I mean, they can't all be the same. Then how does a borrower know what they're facing?
That's a great question. So what that brings up is the loan officer's comp plan. Now, I know this sounds a little off track here, but what borrowers need to know is that the new laws that came about in 2009, 10, or in that range, they now require loan officers to pick what we call a comp plan, a compensation plan, comp for short. Compensation plan is what they will make on every file. Okay, so it's important because what happens is, let's just say, let's take loan officer A. Loan officer A is at 1% per file. Loan officer B is at 0.75% per file. And now you get the same rate. You're both looking at 4%. Now the 4% with loan officer B that has 75 or 0.75% of a comp plan will actually be able to give you a credit because they will have 25 basis points better than the loan officer that has at 1%. So it gets into the situation where you can see one lender will say 4%, and that's it. And the other lender will say 4%. Oh, and guess what? I have a credit of 0.25% to cover your closing costs. Now, that's fantastic, right? So it's another important question to ask a loan officer. Hey, what is your comp plan? Now, it's an intrusive question, and most loan officers wouldn't be happy to be asked that question, but it's a very strong and there's a good reason to ask that, because that will help you understand why one lender is at, charging more in terms of settlement charges and where the other one is.
Is it what you're saying then? It depends on the compensation program that individual lender has with the company they're working with as to what your closing costs are going to be?
Well, no. What happens is so this is not uncommon. You'll have loan officers within a organization pick different comp plans. So I could be, offering you 4% with 0.75. Another guy in my office sitting 4 desks away from myself could be offering 4% with no credit, right? Because he picked a higher comp plan. And that goes in line with how they like to sell their clients or service their clients. Certain loan officers feel that they want to get as much as possible. So that goes in line with the relationship, mentality. The loan officer that wants to build a relationship is going to have a lower comp plan. Right? It makes sense. Why is he going to charge more on each transaction? Because he won't, that would mean that he's just looking at you as a transaction. That's
right.
it.
It seems like if an individual is going to go ahead and work that way, they're just going through the numbers and trying to close a certain percentage of those based on their closing ability, rather than looking out for this client and trying to build a relationship and get referrals throughout the process.
That's right. And it's exciting when you could turn to a borrower and say, hey, guess what? I'm at 4%. You're getting a quarter credit. And the lender up the block isn't offering that. It's exciting. It helps the loan officer. It helps the first and foremost the borrower. Secondly, it helps the loan officer with his referrals and his energy, and everything kind of goes down a good path.
Understood. And so, look, the advice on home buying hasn't changed in 200 plus years. The best investment, they were talking about it then, they're still talking about it now, is that primary residence that you're going to occupy for your own home. It's a long-term investment. Select it wisely. Location, location, location. Very important. Stay strong in any market. Make sure it makes sense for you. It's affordable. go through the motions. When you selected Joe from Park Place Financial Group as your mortgage professional, find the right program for you. And then, again, this is Mark Schwartz, and this is the Mark Schwartz Real Estate Radio Show, 858-414-4660. Download my application, mark4homes.com. That's the number 4. And go to my website. That's Mark, M-A-R-K, the number 4, homes, Homes.com. And search for property and ask us questions. I got my blog out there, all kinds of real estate information. We'd love to have you check us out there. Hershel, I got an email this week about, and I know you're served on, about furnishing homes and staging homes that were in the high end as opposed to leaving them vacant. What's your personal opinion on that? I personally haven't interacted with too many furnished homes, staged homes at this point. And have you?
Well, for me, I'm a big advocate for it. I believe that there's definitely value. You help the potential home buyer envision their family in particular spaces. Sometimes when you walk into these homes, as you well know, sometimes things can be kind of cold when everything is completely vacant.
Right, but what about the philosophy that the buyer needs to look at the house for their own selves, see their furniture in it, see their family in it? So I suppose by leaving personal photos off the wall and personal things, trinkets, family, heirloom stuff, and maybe just having the basics in there. You're saying that by showing the rooms and being able to help people visualize in a larger home that maybe it's not so obvious, is that where it may come into play?
Well, yeah. Well, first of all, when you're preparing your home, you want to definitely take down pictures, like you said. You want to definitely take down anything that just makes people feel like it's not their home. You want to keep everything neutral. Colors, everything is nice, light and bright, windows open.
Yeah.
But
I always tell my client, take down your family photos if you're selling your house. I mean, you're on your way out. It's time to box your stuff up and get it rolling. And that just brings me to the other point. I mean, we have homes that we're selling for clients that are still buying homes. And a lot of times with the competitive marketplace that's out there, it's tough to get somebody to take a deal where it's contingent upon the sale of their house. Joe, are you finding that you're having these like bridge loans or refinance or pulling cash out or showing that they can qualify with both homes to
it comes
get
up
a deal done?
And those situations, when they do come up, we'll assess it if it makes sense. In some cases it does, in some cases it doesn't. It depends on the loan size, it depends on the income situation they have. In some cases they can afford to carry to and bridge it. In some cases they can't. So that's where it comes into really knowing and explaining your situation accordingly to the loan officer.
Absolutely. So we had that exact situation take place. We had knocked on a door, found a guy that was looking to sell in the future. They were looking to find that right home. Guy drives by, sees a sign on a house. It's already sold. Comes back on the market. There's multiple offers on it. Everybody's going in non-contingent. We got to go in with a contingency to sell the house. Now, we can dance around as much as we want, give them more money, and tell them how solid the deal is. But the fact still remains there's a condition in play. It's still conditional on somebody else buying that house to be able to, have our buyer purchase that seller's house. And so those are things that we can't control. So I know that if there was, at one time, there was that like bridge loan program, made it easier for people. I think now, just having experienced that bubble in 2006, 7, and 8, people are like a little skeptical, like, expanding out and having 2 mortgages that they got to cover while thinking they may sell their house.
Definitely.
Are you finding that too?
It's a great program, the bridge. It's been around a long time, and it still does make sense. So based on what you're saying, that does make a buyer a little weary if they're going to carry 2 loans, but if they have the means to do it and there is the need where they are looking and they're going to be closing, then you would embark on that type of situation. Otherwise, yes, you don't want to leave yourself in a place where you have a loan, and if that falls through, then you are left with a bridge loan in place.
Absolutely. And so how we handle that is that condition of purchase, that condition of sale. Mm-hmm. So when we're going in and we're selling a house to somebody that needs to sell their house, we have that COP agreement, which gives them a certain amount of time to sell the house. The flip side is that, unfortunately, it's not going to let us compete usually with somebody who's out there that doesn't have that condition. And I think that's why it's most important to put the horse before the cart and get that house sold. You can always sell the house subject to finding a home. And if you don't find a home within this 17-day time period, the buyer is free to go find another home or still work with us, but at least we have them locked up for that time period. It shows that we're diligently looking for a house. Didn't we find that?
Oh, no, definitely. What I was thinking about, you just reminded me of a situation. We were down at the Meadows, and a gentleman had asked you, he was kind of thinking about whether or not to stay in the meadows or kind of move outside of the meadows, because obviously there's
a gated community up in Del Mar by the Grand Golf Course community.
Exactly. So what would you say is a good investment or a better investment, buying something, a neighborhood, a house that's more established, or going in and buying a new build? Because there were the new builds that were going on right outside.
It's a very good point. So right around the corner, there are homes that are going up for $2.2, $2.3 million that are 5,000 square feet. It is a gated community, but it's not that exclusive Meadows Del Mar community surrounding the golf course community, the Grand Del Mar, the resort that was built by Manchester. It's an exclusive area, and I think that's what separates it. Now, the advantage of Alta Del Mar, the new homes that are being built up there off Carmel Mountain, is that it's still a family neighborhood. It's still just outside the schools, still just outside the parks. You're going to have a little bit more vibe. You can see kids playing in the streets, where you don't necessarily see that in the Meadows. Everyone uses the resort and seems to come and go from there. But it's still, the difference is if you're a member of the golf course,
Gotcha.
If you're a member of that exclusive community, you're going to want to stay in the gates and stay in the Meadows. Absolutely.
Gotcha. No, definitely.
All right, so we got 1 minute left, and I want to just go. We have a couple open houses going on this weekend. We had 2 sales this week. We got that house, Recuerdo, into escrow, and it's going well. We got Primrose, the La Mesa house plus guest house, into escrow. It's going well. We took 2 new listings. We have 1501 India Street, Unit 304. If anybody has any interest in a downtown Village Walk community, give us a call, 858-414-4602. We have a new listing, a 2-bedroom, 2-bath condo in Carmel Valley, just a couple of blocks from 5 freeway on the way to the ocean. It's a great investment, great first-timer. It's a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, 944 square feet at $419. Again, give us a call or check it out on my website, Mark, M-A-R-K, the number 4, homes, HOMES.com. We look forward to a great weekend, great real estate weekend. Give us a call if you have any, you want to look at homes or you have any questions about buying and selling. We look forward to seeing you next Friday evening. Have a great weekend, Herschel. Joe, take care.
Good weekend, everyone.